Good evening, Rabotai. In the Vidui Gadol, we are continuing Hamasnu. We have extorted. Extorted means that we took money from other people in illegitimate ways. But under this category, there's also Chilanu Shabbatot Kochecha. We also desecrated Hashem's holy Shabbat. The Torah commands us, one of the 10 commandments, to keep the Shabbat, to guard the Shabbat. 12 times the Hafetz Chaim counts. 12 times in the Torah, Hashem commands us to keep the Shabbat. It is one of the fundamentals, is the pillars, one of the pillar mitzvot of Judaism is to keep Shabbat. And that is that a person has to make sure not to desecrate the Shabbat. The Chinuch writes that a person has to know that it's so important is the Shabbat that you could lose a lot of perks and a lot of priorities, or a person loses a lot of his abilities as a Jew when he doesn't keep Shabbat. It's very hamur. We know that a person can have a status of a goy in some halachot, has v'shalom, where a person, his shchita is not kasher, the wine that he touches become yain nesech. A person has to, he's not believed, he doesn't have a kosher status as a witness. So a person has to know that it's very, very hamur, very strict, and to break Shabbat, it has a lot of ramifications. But also, there's a lot on the flip side. There's a lot of good things. A person has to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he says, even if you did all the sins, like even the point of Avodah Zarah, you serve idols, like generation of Enosh, Hashem forgives you if you keep Shabbat properly. We know the Geulah is dependent, the redemption is dependent on the Shabbat. If the Jewish people all keep 2 Shabbats, the redemption will come. The person has to know that whatever he spends on Shabbat, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will pay him, and he will give him even double. He will give him, the Arizal says, 1,000 times fold. So therefore, a person has to know that keeping the Shabbat is a very great reward, and if a person is able to keep it k'halacha, keep it according to the proper halacha, a lot of times we break the Shabbat and we don't even realize, because the Yarat Vash, Rav Yonatan Abishet Salav Shalom, he says if we don't learn about the laws of Shabbat, there's no way you're keeping Shabbat. If you don't finish the laws of Shabbat by studying it, for sure every Shabbat you're breaking Shabbat, you don't even realize. Because how would you know? How would you know the halachot? Right? There's many halachot in the laws of Shabbat, we can't go through all of it on one foot, but a lot of times you have to know the laws of cooking. A person cannot put liquids back onto the plata from the fridge and reheat liquids on Shabbat. According to Shulchan Aruch, it's breaking Shabbat, it's cooking. A person is not allowed to use hot water on Shabbat. Ladies want to wash dishes, they cannot use hot water from the boiler, from the sink. A person wants to, he has to keep the derabanans also. He has to keep muktzeh. He has to make sure that he doesn't, go and transgress some unknown halachot, maybe like going on a tree. There's many derabanic decrees that the rabbis made on Shabbat, right? Or swimming. People a lot of times they don't have what to do in the afternoon. They want to go swimming or they want to go play basketball on Shabbat. Even though these are not outright desecrations of Shabbat, but you're not utilizing the time of Shabbat wisely. Imagine a person goes and he puts on the TV, he puts on a sports show before Shabbat starts, and he sits osvo watching the sports show on Shabbat. What did I do, Rabbi? I turned it on before Shabbat. I didn't do anything. At the end of the day, you're doing an activity that's not in the spirit of Shabbat. That's not what Shabbat is meant for. Shabbat is supposed to be a day of rest. So people say, oh, day of rest. So that's why I sleep all Shabbat. All week I don't sleep so much. Shabbat, let's say I sleep the whole afternoon Shabbat. The day of rest means from work. You're not supposed to work, but you're supposed to work a different type of work, spiritual work. And neshama is supposed to get, what do you get a double portion of neshama for? For to sleep more, for to eat more? Not necessarily. It's mainly for to pray more and to learn more. So the Yerushalmi says Hashem gave us the Shabbat only for the sake of learning and doing mitzvot. So that way we don't be busy with everything else. That's why in Parshat Vet Hanan, in the Sefer Dvarim, right, that the Torah tells us that Hashem commands us not to go and break the Shabbat, and then right after it tells us, because you were slaves in Egypt. When Rav Kaplan asks, Rav Aryeh Kaplan asks, what's the connection? Keep the Shabbat because you were slaves in Egypt. He says because it means that a person can chas v'shalom be a slave again, just like in Egypt, if you don't keep the Shabbat. How? You're a slave to your work, you're a slave to your phone, you're a slave to all these things that you do during the week. You need to disconnect for one day of the week to give a reboost to your neshama. And that's what the Chinuch says, that a person really has to remember, why do we keep Shabbat? Because to remember, Hashem created the world in 6 and rested on the 7th. When a person keeps Shabbat, he testifies, I believe in Hashem. And if you do not keep the Shabbat, you're testifying, I don't believe in Hashem. I don't believe He created the world in 6. I believe, chas v'shalom, maybe we came from monkeys, or we don't believe in God, chas v'shalom. No, a person has to know, if you really believe in Hashem, and you really want to show you believe in Hashem, you have to keep the Shabbat kilcheta, according to halacha, properly. So for a person who does not have a dedicated time to study laws of Shabbat, he must set aside time to learn the laws of Borer, how to separate certain foods from other foods that he wants to on Shabbat. There's a permitted way, there's a forbidden way. How to learn the laws of carrying, if he applies to him in his area. A person has to learn the laws of the Kiddush, the Havdalah, to do them properly. If these are not studied, you could be doing it all your life wrong. You didn't even realize how to do the Kiddush or the Havdalah properly. So a person has to dedicate time to all these mitzvot. If not, so then, especially the Shabbat table. Shabbat table is a prime time where Yetzer Hara could go in there and a person could start speaking Lashon Hara at the table. He doesn't have anything good to say. He starts judging his family members. He starts putting people down. Why? Because he has nothing good to say. Because he didn't prepare a Davar Torah. He didn't prepare, I don't know how to sing songs, Rabbi. I don't know how to say Davar Torah on the Shabbat table. I don't know how to talk to my family members. So you have to prepare. You have to find what to do Shabbat afternoon. You have to find what to say in Shabbat table. You have to sit. You have to sit as a balabait, or leader of a household, must have what to say in the Shabbat table. That's the prime time to give Yad Shammai to your family members. So therefore, this is a lot of work, a lot of preparation that Shabbat needs, and that's why it says, the Or HaChaim HaKadosh says, Asita the Shabbat. You will make the Shabbat. If you do not prepare Erev Shabbat, then there's no Shabbat. It's not just cooking and cleaning. It's also preparing your spiritual stuff for the Shabbat. The Shabbat table has to do with Divrei Torah and songs, and the person has to be the leader, and he has to start. Nobody else is going to start for you. You have to start yourself. So B'ezrat Hashem, we will all make Teshuva in this, and we'll use the Shabbat table to give spiritual boost to our family and to ourselves, and not use it as a day of just sleeping and bumming out. Shabbat is not an extra Sunday that the Jewish people got. It's a specific day to grow. You're supposed to walk away from the Shabbat a different person. You're supposed to grow and go higher and higher. So therefore, there's a wonderful story that the Balei Musar is saying. A lot of times people, they may think, no, I don't want to do the mitzvah, I'll gain more by not following the mitzvah. There was a king who had an emissary. He sent a messenger to a different country to go make shalom. He was his minister, a foreign minister. And he said, go and speak to this country. They finally want to make peace with us. Don't talk to them too much. Just make me a promise. Don't make any bets with them. And just talk to them, and that's it. So he said, okay, no problem. He goes there, and he speaks to them, and they have chai. They go and they shake hands. They make the whole scene. And then he says, listen, before you leave, we want to tell you we have a claim against you. We have a claim. We're speaking about the baiting in our country. We don't know about people from your country. They say they have 11 toes. He says, 11 toes? People from our country don't have 11 toes. What are you talking about? He says, no, we heard that you have 11 toes. So he goes and he says, I'll bet you, even $100 you have 11 toes. He says, no, my pitom. Of course I'll take the bet. He says, you know what? And they kept arguing back and forth. It got to millions of dollars. They made the bet that he has 11 toes. That's how serious they were. And he says, it's a joke. The king is going to be so happy. You're going to come home with millions of dollars. He goes and takes off his shoes. He shows them he has only 10 toes. He says, you see, I win. And they go and he takes the whole luggage full of money. He goes home. He says to the king, Anna, he puts the chimadan on the table. You see, I bring you millions of dollars. Look what a good job I did. And he starts crying and crying and crying. And he says, why are you crying? And he says, you made a bet with them and you made $1 million. I made a bet with them that you would never make a bet. I told them that my minister is so loyal, he's going to listen to what I said. And look, I bet with them $10 million. You not make a bet, and you made a bet, and you lost me $9 million. So therefore, the mashal is, a lot of times we think, no, I'll gain here, I'll gain there, I'm going to gain here. I don't have to listen to the mitzvah. I have more to gain over here. Hashem says, yes, you have what to gain over there. But if you would have kept my mitzvah, you don't know what behind the scenes I already was putting on the side for you. You don't know what you lost out on. So therefore, we all show zocheh to remember how great a reward the Shabbat is, and keep it kilchet.